Sue Minahan.
Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and her panel of guests bring you leading-edge astrology conversations through a journey of soul growth patterns connecting astrology's energetic cycles. Get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello again, it's Sue Rose Minahan, founder of Talk Cosmos, and today is March 5th, the 5th of March, and we have Planet Buzz, a monthly panel on the first Sunday of every month, and we have Master Astrologer guest Wendy Stacey joining Dr. Laura Tad and myself for this wonderful ongoing talk about Pluto in Aquarius, what we've been waiting for in one sense or another that's happening on the 23rd of the month. So it's signifying dimensions that we will cover in many ways. And without any more ado, we're now ready for Planet Buzz.
Focusing on planetary ecliptic orbital cycles and planetary pairs called synodic cycles connecting the planets at the same degree that begin our relationship, these are the members of Planet Buzz.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, the founder of Talk Cosmos, an eclectic evolutionary astrologer, consultant, certified color energy life coach, vice president of the Washington State Astrological Association, member of Kepler Astrology Toastmaster Club, of a Dwarf Planet University diploma and AA with music degree. I love mythology, philosophizing, collaboration. I'm an artist, writer, a perpetual student of life.
And I'm Dr. Laura Tad. I work as a spiritually oriented psychological astrologer with students and clients around the world. As a counselor, writer, and educator, I love helping people recognize their inner strength, take advantage of auspicious moments, and navigate times of challenge with greater ease. On my own podcast, Mythic Sky Storytime, I discuss astrology, mythology, and actualizing our full potential. Holding a PhD in human science, my doctoral thesis, titled Guided by Celestial Light in a World of Artificial Illumination, explores the lived experience of contemporary Western astrologers. In addition to my astrological work, I have a course in personal mythology that explores the stories we carry from our ancestors and the impact those narratives have on our lives.
And as the ancient Hermetic Code reveals,
as below, so above. As above, so below.
Hi, and our wonderful guest, special guest, Wendy Stacey. Wendy Stacey has a BA and MA and a diploma with the London Society of Astrology. And she's the principal of the International Mayo School of Astrology and the chair of the Astrological Association, long-standing London astrology institutions. And Wendy tutors for the MA program in cultural astronomy and astrology for the University of Wales. And she's written numerous articles for the Astrological Journal and the author of Consulting, the author actually of Consulting with Astrology, 2012, Uranus Square Pluto, 2012, and about to be published COVID-19 through the Microscopic Lens of Astrology and Unaspected Plants. She's contributed to the New Generation and the Professional Astrologer and Bitcoin. And in 2014, Wendy received the prestigious Charles Harvey Award for exceptional service to astrology. Also, keep in mind that Wendy runs a free webinar on current affairs each fortnight. That's 2 weeks on Thursday evenings, UK time. And you can register at mayoastrology.com, astrology webinars. So thank you, Wendy. It's such a treat you have with your research that I know that you might mention today about childbirth, and it coordinates with Laura's great work too. And it's just wonderful to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Lovely to be back.
Yeah. So Pluto in Aquarius. where do we rocket forth on? It's just here. I'm going to share real quickly. Nathan, we'll do this because we both have slides, and I love Wendy's slides. But I will say for people that have the YouTube, that these, besides going to Talk Cosmos, you can always find us, but it's Wendy Stacey or mayoastrology.com for Wendy, and Mythic Sky for Laura. And at the half hour, we'll find out all about their wonderful events. So right off the bat, it's going to start off March 23rd, just for 2 months at 0 degrees. And then it comes back in 2024 through 2044, long time. And there's 5 points that it's going to be at 0 degrees. But other than that, I think I'll take away our slides and I'll wait for your both thoughts about this. What are we looking at? And if you
Wow. Yes, it's I'd probably see this as probably a lot more dramatic than most people, I think. But
Me
I
too.
yeah, I think it's an incredibly historical moment, similar to 2020. I think March is going to be an incredible month. I also think it is the turning point in human evolution. That's how dramatic I see it. It's quite incredible what's about to happen this month, not only because Pluto comes back to the 0 degrees, which Jupiter Saturn conjoined in December 2020 and hadn't done so for 800 years. But Pluto coming to that degree so soon after, we're about to enter Trek age, where it's scary and it's really exciting as well. A lot of people keep talking about, I don't want to live through this era, but actually, we thought that 30 years ago, and we're coping fine with technologies and things like that. But it is, I think, in terms of human evolution, it's massive. It's absolutely massive.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely true. And I know Laura has a lot to say, Dr. Ted, too. But I'm remembering as you speak that in the 60s, it was Uranus and Pluto. Well, here we have Pluto in a sign that is co-ruled, but modern astrologers look at Uranus. So it's another dimension of this obsessive, compulsive transformation that Pluto always wants for rebirthing what will give us life support. And Uranus wants something that is authentic and awakening us to our real self. So between these, it's massive.
Yeah, and it's sorry, Laura, and it's also similar in that same thing with the Pluto Uranus in terms of sexual liberation. It's more about gender equality these days, but it's also about other human rights, feminism, racism, things like this are being addressed all the time. But the difference this time is it's not the Pluto and Leos living it. It's the Pluto and Virgo and Libra and Scorpio and
Yes.
Sag, which has a
Yes.
really huge bearing on how this unfolds.
The
Yeah.
party begins.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, for some.
Well, speaking as a Leo generation, it's like it's a collaboration where there's little control. A party is a party, and you invite. It's inclusive. You invite the gang, and as you speak, we have many voices, and it's greatly appreciated. Laura, I know you have thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think that I've been working to, I've got a Sag rising, right? So I'm trying to not have the dystopian spin on this that a lot of people are sort of putting out into the world. One, because why put that out there as a possibility if we don't have to? But also, what's the potential? I mean, we're thinking about it if you're working with a client who has a transit, what's the opportunity for growth, right? It's not just hard to be hard. And so it's a potential to heal collective trauma. It's a potential, right? If we're looking at these groups, we're looking at racism. Okay, well, maybe it's reparations that begins during this time period, right? It's this potential to heal trauma at a collective global level. And even in smaller groups and communities, right? Both this transformation of group of what we think of as group, what we think of as community, and transformation occurring within groups, within communities. And it has that potentiality. Yes, it will have a lot to do with tech. It will all the AI stuff that's popped up in the last few months. It's absolutely part of this. But the potential is to really also have us connect even more with our humanity, even more, right? Like as we see what the void that exists in AI, the importance of our humanity, that's part of the potential in these. It doesn't get out of Aquarius once it's fully in there. It sort of just dips a toe this year, till 2043, right? So
Yeah.
it's
44.
So it's a long time.
Because it goes back at the end. It always has a it is, and it's a tall order, and it's asking a lot. I agree. I pulled up this chart because I know Wendy has wonderful charts, but since we're talking about the start of it, I thought we'd better begin March 23rd, and it's at 12:14 p.m., and that's Greenwich, where the time clock for the world begins. And in this chart, we can notice what you're saying, as we all know that in a few days, Saturn's going to be in Pisces. But also what's most intriguing is that when we speak of nurturing and the necessity as far as a seed point, I pulled it up too, because Mars is in that activating energetic square that's saying, let's think about Ceres. How are we nurturing ourselves? Are we nurturing? And it's in Virgo of the grain and service. And so we have that. Anyway, I'm throwing that out just for some feedback. And then Wendy, I'd love to see your slides.
Big stellium in Aries as well, isn't there? So, yeah. It's but the angular Pluto, of course, and of course, there's so much change going to occur, and and Aquarius is very much concerned with morality. So the morality, the compass of morality is going to shift, but it's going to bring all of the great and all of the challenging with it. So, the AI, for example, we have issues with morality and regulation, and of course that's part of it, and fortunately we have Uranus and Taurus, which is quite anchoring and sort of sets sort of more evidence-based processes, so we can hopefully navigate our way through that moral issues. But you're going to get the good and the bad with everything. Pluto's going to go into Aquarius. Everything good and bad, everything fantastic and challenging is going to occur. But it's a very exciting time. I mean, for me, one of the most important things about this particular ingress of Pluto into Aquarius is we, and of course, as Americans, you guys have just had your Pluto return for America at 27 Capricorn, but we are living in a very small window of time that people are going to have Pluto oppositions. Now, we have never had this in the history of the planet. So, for example, if you were born in 1890, to get a Pluto opposition, you would have to be 107 and you would live till 1997. However, conversely, if you were born in 1940, your Pluto opposition is this year at the age of 83. This is a big deal. Mm-hmm. The average age of Americans at the last ingress of Pluto going into Aquarius was 32.8 years old. Our life expectancy now is double that. It's like something like 74.6, 74.8. This is US rates. Now, so we are living in a small window of time where people, human beings, I mean, you would have had them sort of randomly, of course, some people would have lived longer, but not generations, not millions and millions of people on the planet experiencing those Pluto oppositions. And this is huge. This is never ever seen. It's unprecedented, and it won't occur again for another 200 or 300 years. So because Pluto has an oval orbit, it doesn't have a circular one. So for us, it looks like it
it goes from 12 years to 30 years. I think Taurus Cancer is like 30 years. It's enormous.
Scorpio's 12 or something.
and the others are like 12
Yeah.
years, Scorpio and
So
Sag. It's just incredible.
yeah, because of the oval orbit of Pluto. So therefore you
Mhm.
have a whole generation having these Pluto oppositions. So this is a really interesting, wise, survival orientated, dealing with really hardcore stuff.
It
Personally, globally, coming back to what Laura said about reparations and the collective, absolutely. Like before, when we looked at the civil rights movement, for example, in the 60s, now, I mean, I'm sitting here in London, weeks away from the coronation of the king, which is a
Mhm.
Leo concept. I'm afraid royal families are not invited under Pluto and Aquarius.
And
They're
Charles will
not.
experience this opposition, yes?
Yes, yes, he'll experience the opposition, but we've never, and he's obviously trying to flip things, I think, into a very Aquarian mode, and he's sort of always had that. But royalty is a Leo concept with Pluto and
Mhm.
Aquarius. Royal families, they don't subscribe to the Aquarian equality, democracy, things, so they're sort of, not going to be, and you can already see the downfall of this. You can see it with the gossip online, and it really means nothing. It's just part of that sort of crumbling, So it's things like that that are our life is going to change quite a lot, not because of the royal family or royal, but in
How
every
about if we
aspect.
see some of your slides? I took mine
Yeah,
away
sure.
because I know you have with slides. Now we have a podcast crew. I love that with the spaceship. Yes, it's so true.
Well, this
E.T.
is the thing. Yeah, this is the thing. And I mean, the reason I say this is my uncle used to write for Greenpeace, and he once said
Mm.
the only way humans will bypass gender, racism, religion is if we have a threat of aliens where we all unite as human beings. And there's something true about that, though. The only way
Oh,
we can see ourselves unified is by the threat of something else, So
Right.
yeah, and we've had the James Webb telescope come out. We're now have got these amazing images of the universe. So our place in the universe, I think,
And,
is going to become massive.
and that was part, I don't know if you saw the film Arrival,
Yeah,
came out.
yeah,
That
yes,
was the theme of that, right? It's like all these ships
yeah,
show up in different parts of the world, and the world has to come together to
yes.
find solution, right? And world peace was the solution, and they weren't threatening dangerous
No, but we yes,
beings from other planets, but there was still this resolution globally that was required through communication, in part, which is interesting, with it being right in air, which governs communication.
but I think
exactly.
there's
And
a
I
lot of hope right now. I will say this on the benefit of doubt. I mean, granted, we knew all of the dangers. It's like watch both ways before you cross the road. There's always dangers anywhere. But I will say that in this seed moment, we have the unifier, Pisces and Saturn saying, hey, there is some unity here. But more than that, we have the polarity, because you're right. When I think of how we project things, which is very much the cardinal cross, looking at, whether it's fear-based Capricorn with its security-based Cancer, with the opposing relationship signs of Libra and projecting Libra onto other people with Aries. It's that fear base of, oh, what's my security going to be? But we're remembering, yes, there's gifts in each. If we have the fixed cross, which we are with Aquarius, we are looking at that polarity over there of Leo, which you both have brought up, is so necessary, because Aquarius by itself can get so connected into the group that it forgets its heart and it's
yeah,
more
yeah,
thinking. So it's very important that we keep that heart centered, which people like ourselves are going to keep reminding
And I
folks.
think, and that playful part, right? That creative,
yeah,
not being overly serious, not being that AI tech it's everything in life is ones and zeros, right? That the embodied joy of being human, right?
joy is a good word. Yeah, joy is yeah,
That's what part of that polarity is about, is remembering that, right? That ideally you want those archetypes in balance. It's not that they're in conflict, right? I've got clients that are opposing suns. It can be an amazing marriage, because you're
Yeah,
each what the other
absolutely.
needs to learn. It doesn't have to be combative.
And they know each
And
other, and it's
yeah,
opposites attract and all those things. And
Yeah,
and
exactly.
so
yeah.
remembering in this time
Mm.
as detached, right, as we often like place
Isn't
on
that
Aquarius,
I'm
that the
jumping?
embodiment of play, that
Yeah.
toddler energy that is
Yeah.
Leo.
Isn't that a lot like Osiris? Osiris, right? The way the Egyptian mythology, where he got dismembered, and his wife, who is it? Not Nut, but anyway, um, Sir- uh, Osiris got dismembered, and so Isis came and she put him back together, remembered together. Anyway, Wendy, go ahead and play any slides you want. We have a few
Right.
minutes.
Well, this is just the resume slideshow. Yes. So this is the ingress of that you showed. This is the ingress on the world map. This is the astrocartography, and you'll see here's America here. That angular Pluto sits on the MC here. So when you look at this slide, all these planets at the top is where, if you relocated that ingress, so at the moment we put it for Greenwich because it's universal time. But if you actually set it for, say, for example, Washington, D.C., Pluto will be very close to the midheaven. You've also got, and so when you're looking at over here, Pluto on the IC, you have it coming up here through Perth, through Indonesia, through Hong Kong, through Wuhan, actually, which is right here, which is the 90-degree angle to Shanghai, Hong Kong, up through Beijing and up here. It's important to say when something happens in China, it also happens next to Washington, D.C. as well. They're actually connected by astrocartography. So they're always going to have an interesting relationship. You can see it on the ascendant, descendant. So here you can see it running through so the east coast of Africa, coming up here through the Mediterranean. Here is like south of France and Barcelona, coming up. And as you saw at universal time with Pluto sitting on the descendant, you can see it sitting here that runs through the south of England and through Northern Ireland. And of course, right here in the UK now, we have Northern Ireland negotiations and things like that. And if you look at it on the ascendant, you're looking at the white line here going up to I feel like a weather reporter, but going up through the east coast of New Zealand, coming up past Hawaii, coming up very close to Seattle here, through Vancouver. So these are places where it's going to arrive. So if there's a discovery, and we may not know that discovery for several years, for example, it'll connect. I mean, if you saw the pre-eclipse of the COVID and the Saturn-Pluto conjunction, they all pick up the very areas that were, very poignant in the development of that virus. But so this here gives an interesting view on where it may arrive. I feel like I'm going to jump in. I mean, this is what will become a focus on a personal level. This is very much in conjunction with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. They're sort of almost inseparable, particularly as it's about to ingress at the exact degree, the shift from physical to mental. And just to say, we've been in Earth, Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions for 200 years. The Pluto in Aquarius in the 1760s and 1770s, which was part of your Declaration of Independence, but was also the start of the Industrial Revolution with the spinning jenny and all that, even though it had been invented in China. But it became, and so you said standard of living, Sue. So our standard of living is based on what we do, what we get paid, and what we aspire to. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, that's all going to go. We think about the house we're going to live in. Bricks and mortar are nothing to Aquarius. We are now out of that earth, out of Capricorn. Bricks and mortar mean nothing. Our standard of living is going to be based on how much information we have access to, how much brain power we have. It's the goalposts are going to shift incredibly. Every area of our life, our daily routine. We eat 3 meals a day. We sleep 8 hours a week, purely from the Industrial Revolution, earth-based It's all earth-based. It was all around the working day and working life. We can already see that happening. People don't want to work. People want
Well,
to
and
work
even
remotely.
there's a great talk about education that at least in the States, the educational model that was sort of post-war mirrors the assembly line.
Yeah.
Right?
And
That you're
it's
at this grade,
occupationally.
at this age, not because of your mental, emotional, psychological development, but because
Yeah.
you're 7 and you're here
Yes.
at 8 and you're here at 12. Again, not because of where you're at in your mental, emotional development, but this arbitrary
Yep.
number that we've said at this age you should be here.
Linear. Yeah, linear too.
Well, that's
Linear and boxed. It's not just that it's linear, it's boxed in, it's rigid. And
It's
if you
occupationally
deviate
based. Yeah.
from that, you are either superior or inferior.
Yeah. It's that
Right?
Saturn.
You skip a grade and you're brilliant. You're leading a little later and you're remedial and you're behind.
Yeah.
Right? That there's something wrong with you that needs to be fixed.
Question as we go on, because I know, Wendy, you have some thoughts here too on this, but I'm asking both. I would think that because we have 4 more transits at that 0 degrees Aquarius going into like one in June, of course, as it goes back into Capricorn until January, and then January 21st, it returns right on that 0 degrees, and then twice more, once in September and once in November, meaning that this, what you were showing about the cartography, of course, the other planets will be different, but Pluto will still be impacting those places that you mentioned, which astound me. It's like every place I ever thought of going or being is involved. I'm in Hawaii. I was thinking of southern London, and then anyway, it goes on and on. Yes.
Yeah, and as it keeps going back into Capricorn, we're going to have this resistance. We're going to have resistance, and we're going to have like the constant need for regulation, the bringing down the corrupt. That final degree of Capricorn is going to be hammering away at, it's all those who have done wrong, particularly politically, but also things like, you have the people in court that have been during this Pluto in Capricorn, but there's going to be more. And Pluto in Capricorn is very desperate to get this corruption sorted before it moves into Aquarius, which is quite different. But like this daily life and routine we have, everything we do, why we get up, how we brush our teeth, have our breakfast, 3 meals a day. We never ate 3 meals a day before Jupiter Saturn were on Earth. We didn't. It was a quite. It suited the Industrial Revolution. It suited manufacturing. Huge production.
Well, what brings me to mind, because we do have a break time right here, and I love all this. You're both wonderful, truly. But I'm thinking, if you were on a ship, when did you eat? I guess somebody had to be up to man that ship, across the water. So possibly it's that type of thinking, because we have Saturn but we do have a break time here, but we could finish that thought and then jump into our break.
Sorry, Laura, you go. Yeah.
Well, people used to live by the sun and sunrise, sunset, even just that simple, right? When you don't have electricity, you don't stay up very late after the sun goes down.
This is true. Well, I guess our sun is down just for a few minutes. We'll be right back. This is Talk Cosmos with Planet Buzz with Dr. Laura Tadd and Wendy Stacey from the UK. And we're talking about Pluto and Aquarius, which is a huge subject, and we'll be glad to return. Okay, thanks. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Pisces, ruled modernly by Neptune and by Jupiter in traditional astrology of the ancients. By leaving a cycle based on the equality of all humans and brilliancy, Pisces concludes the 12 signs that energetically encompass the entirety of the universe, where humans have no control. As a mutable water sign represented by two fish swimming in opposite directions of the forces of life, we experience in Pisces the collective unconscious energy of the unknown. Intuitive, psychic Pisces completes the seed cycle, initiated with Aries' willful separation from the Piscean womb.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to newprosupplements.com, we cover the world of animals. This week, March 12th, it's best neuroenergetic balance. Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings you leading-edge astrological conversations with hour-long programs each week on KKNW. The show goes live every Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on Facebook and YouTube, along with daily chats throughout the week on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure you click like and subscribe buttons so you can get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or, if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. So, grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Talk radio for the heart and soul. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hi, we're back again with Talk Cosmos with insightful conversations awakening a consciousness. Wendy and Laura, I'll ask each one. Wendy, what do you have that's coming up that to share with our audience?
Well, I mean, on this particular subject, I mean, I think it's interesting, people are very, interested in Saturn going into Pisces this week as well. And I was thinking in the break, so you were mentioning, time being linear. Saturn and Pisces, I think, it brings a different dimension to that. So I think we'll experience time quite differently because Saturn is a co-ruler, of course, of Aquarius. So, yes, that's what I was thinking about in the break. And also just one other thing, when Laura was talking about the movie Arrival, I felt it's very much the Jupiter Saturn taking us back to Francis of Assisi in 1224, where he would speak to animals. And this theme is coming back. And the Arrival movie, I think, shows us how we may, during the Pluto in Aquarius, learn how to speak to our fellow creatures. That's what would be fantastic. And that's what Arrival did for me. I think it got me very excited about that.
Thank you. And I apologize. I love your comment. What I meant to ask really was, do you have any events coming up that you want to share?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, but this was beautiful.
Sorry, Sue.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
it was a great segue.
Yes, we have a great conference coming up. The Mayo School Annual Conference, Student Conference, is end of April. The 29th and 30th of April, we have workshops by Lynn Bow and Bernadette Brady. We have Rick Tarnas and a great, huge lineup of speakers. So please go onto the Mayo website. You can get 30% discount if you book right now. So it's going to be a great weekend. So come
That
join.
is with Mayo International School, Mayo School of Astrology.
Yeah, so just mayoastrology.com will get you. Yeah, and the conference is on the front page. There's loads of fabulous speakers.
Always
so
great. That'll be good.
yeah,
And if
30% discount if you book that.
Thank you. Very good. And Laura, what might you be?
Well, so
I know you just
got
from a
back
retreat.
from that was beautiful, amazing on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua, right next to Costa Rica. And a combination of yoga and embodied movement and guided meditations and some astrology and just a gorgeous view of that Venus-Jupiter alignment in the sky that we've been watching. And, when you're in the middle of on the coast beside the jungle in Nicaragua, there is zero light pollution. So there's an amazing view of the cosmos. But I did want to let people know, so I won't be back there this year, I don't think. I will be there again this time next year. But my friend who is running the retreat, she has another retreat coming up in mid-March, the March 18th to the 25th. There's a couple slots left for just rest and restore and relaxation right on the ocean. So I did want to just promote that for Michelle, because she so generously welcomed me into her circle so I could be a part of the retreat that just completed. And then we'll have some other retreats coming up. She and I will be doing some more collaboration throughout the year. So I'll let you know when I have those dates, but hopefully something in Hawaii sometime this year. So that, and I think it'll be on the Big Island, Sue. So maybe we can do something together. I have a friend from grad school that when she was seeing what I was posting, she said, come to Hawaii. So we're now talking with her.
We'll look into this. This is exciting. Very good. And it looks like Pluto is on its course, right? I mean, we were just talking about its path, and Hawaii was one of its, with the descendant there. Yeah. And now we have also the British Isles. So this is exciting. Well, thank you. And as far as Cosmos, of course, we have, well, actually, on the third week, next week we have archetypal symbols, which is always that vision quest with the new moon. And of course, we'll be talking about the spring equinox, Aries, new moon at 0 degrees, which is phenomenal. And the following week, on the third week, is going to be Good Vibrations, which is vibrational astrology with Linda Barry and Richard Smoot. Boy, I'm combining everything. But the point is that that's a vibrational energy forecast. So it'll be lots of Pluto here because this is so big. Let's get back to all the four of us again, or three of us and Pluto. That's the four of us. Thank you. I think Laura knows how I talk. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I had a quick thought with the break too, and just hearing your little piece about, that we're still in the Piscean season, right? Still Pisces for a little bit here. And thinking about with this Saturn ingress that's, on our heels at this moment, right? It's just about to happen. That it's very interesting that, sort of like we talked about, Sue, at the beginning of the year, of Venus sort of leading the way with these transitions, with Rick, that it was sort of going through all the signs that these outer planets are transitioning through, that Saturn is sort of pulling things along of, yes, it will, Pluto will be in Aquarius much, much longer than Saturn's going to be in Pisces, but this transition of Saturn shifting is happening first. And so there is something of it sort of, particularly I think because Saturn, right, is so much about stability and structure. And so almost like these stepping stones and reflecting, okay, what was the groundwork? What foundation did Saturn lay in these last 2.5 years that Pluto may then blow up or transform or break down, or what is so stable that even Pluto can't budget?
That's right. That is Saturn. What is longevity? And here we get the real deal. If we're ready or not, here it comes. Okay. So what will be our focus I'm eager to see what else might be available here, Wendy.
Even sleep, sleep, air doesn't like sleep. We're going to learn to charge in other ways. I know that sounds bizarre, but, we sleep the way we do, like we eat the way we do. All this is going to change. Language, communication. Just to say, Ray Kurzweil, who wrote this, Singularity, talks about uploading and downloading the brain this decade, before 2030. We have Saturn-Uranus conjunct at 2032 in Gemini. Early childhood development, when we think about that, when you think about you can upload any language to the brain, can you think about how that will change child development, how it will change everything? I mean, it's scary. I'm reminded Bonhoeffer, Nelson Mandela both said a society is measured on how it leaves its children. That is coming back to that same Aquarius Leo polarity. We are going to be, we have the technology now we don't need translation. We can do it. We have, we do it with photos, videos, and we've had that technology
I
for
just
years.
spent a week in Nicaragua with very little high school Spanish that I remembered. And even the taxi drivers that we had all had apps that they would type in Spanish and then it would immediately translate. And that's how we were communicating, going, from Nicaragua to Costa Rica. With everybody not communicating, but with 10 years ago would have been much more difficult.
Very true. Although I will say, because I am not someone that speaks usually that's in the traditional form, I just don't. Yeah. And so therefore Siri, as we know, gets things so mixed up. If I'm,
and Alexa's the same.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm realizing here when the book, the big Bible book comes out and it says, pardon me for folks that are very attached to it, but it is a book of great reverence. I understand, but I'm not of that following it, but I give reverence to it, and it says the word. And I just realized that consciousness is so attached to how we do label and identify, whether it's through pictures, but the pictures are iconic, as we forget really how iconic words are, because we've gotten so attached with reading skills and all these civilization skills that we have. So now we're talking about inputting language. I just wonder. Yes, go ahead.
So there's two things though with communication. So there's knowing the word, but when I taught cultural anthropology, one of my assignments was that people had to invent a word and see if they could get people to use it. Because language not only is about how we communicate, but it's how we see the world.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Yeah. When you have 5 words for love, like they do in Greece, you have a very different understanding of the experience of love.
That's what I'm getting at.
Right? Yeah. And so it's not just a 1-to-1, 0 and 1 ratio of differences, because and we also had them watch a video of, I believe it was a tribe, indigenous tribe in Australia, that they don't have a word for right and left. It does not exist in their language. They have cardinal directions. They don't have right and left.
In my language, and probably also Hawaiian, because it's Polynesian, is we have no word for me.
Yeah.
Or I. We do now. We do now, but there was no concept of I or me. Yeah. It was only us and we. And that is exactly how Polynesian culture, it's quite different now, but Maori and Tahitian, Hawaiian, Samoan, Tongan, where that was the origin of our language. But I agree, Laura. And
your place in space completely changes when you don't have that.
That's what I'm
Aries, I am. If that isn't culturally conceptualized, then how do you you walk through the world completely differently? And so
it's language. It's the conceptual part of language. Like you have Sag rising. I have my sun in the 9th house. I may be a Gemini, but I am totally rooted by concepts, by the big belief pictures and changing it all the time. And that's where I was thinking, what you're drawing together is, what if we did implant this? The beauty of language to me, that I love learning new languages, because it does exactly, Laura, what you're saying, is it uproots basic beliefs to shift them around. Because, for instance, in Spanish, you never say, I am hungry. I have hunger. As it was said to me in Spain or Mexico one time, how can you be hungry? You're not hungry. You have hunger. So if we implant this in our brains, are we going to automatically start I hope. It's like a rush deal. Go ahead.
I think it's, Spanish was born out of that last Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. I think I said this before on Alfonso X created the language of Castile. too highbrow. Of course it was Aquarian. So it ended up being Spanish, and it was the most dominant language on the earth until up in the late 90s. I think what's going to happen is our concepts have to change. For example, we're now we're resisting globalization on every level. Everyone is anti their government, as they should be. I want to say they have every right to be, but we're trying to fight national issues, which are a global problem. Inflation, political, so all these issues are global. They're not any singular country. They're not America. They're not UK. They're every country in Europe, Australasia, Asia. These are global issues. So when we eradicate that meaning, we find new ones. So the Greek word five, so we have this history, but all of these goalposts are all going to change. And when we do become universal and we become humanity rather than by race or by nationality, which is important. Don't get me wrong. I'm also Polynesian. I feel very passionate about who I am, but the boundaries are going to have to come down in some way for us to operate together.
Yeah, well, and that's part of just being in the Aquarian age too,
yeah,
right? Which is long after Pluto leaves Aquarius. That how do we acknowledge our humanity and our interrelatedness and not homogenize? Right? How do we keep, in some degree, that Leonian individuality, and yet we're all connected? And that's the dance that we're in. And I think with the Pluto in Aquarius, part of that is what needs to drop away, right? That
I agree.
That but sculpture, right? When Michelangelo was sculpting marble, he's cutting away the pieces that aren't the sculpture. He's not carving the sculpture. He's removing what isn't the sculpture. And that's part of what we're moving into, is removing what no longer serves us, right? That's Pluto, letting go of what no longer serves humanity. What have we outgrown as a creature on the planet, as a species? What has humanity outgrown that we have to let go of?
I have a thought about this, if I might present, and that is that we have forgotten our relationship as Uranus is with Taurus. We have forgotten Gaia. We have forgotten the whole primal energy of the mythologies of Gaia and Uranus forming and creating this world. In other words, our partner that we've forgotten is nature. And nature is going to come up and storm ahead and say, hey, baby, I'm here and you're going to have to live with me. Because that's the name of the game. And so whether it's through volcanoes or whether it's through, and not to be a dystopian or whatever those words are that tears everything down. But the reality is we're not the highway. We're on this course with nature, and we're using resources and everything else. And we have the technology to create all kinds of new sources. We know this. I mean, it's beyond our comprehension.
It is beyond our comprehension, yes.
But we need to, it again, is that fixed cross. Because if we've got the Aquarian, we're bringing in the heart all the time. And that is going to be where we can rise and be that individual within the group, which is a struggle, right? We know that not everybody rises. But the other part is the resources and the survival, how we toggle those things. And that's with nature.
Well, and that's part of that interconnectedness, right? Is that we are part of the natural world. We particularly in the last couple hundred years, right? Humanity tends to manifest destiny. We're trying to manipulate and control nature.
That's right. We are no more rain dances
with it. And,
we forgot our rain dance.
I learned when I was in Nicaragua was because where we were staying is the sea turtles come up and lay their eggs. We got to see baby turtles run into the sea.
Wonderful. Yeah.
But one of the things I learned from one of the women at the retreat who works with turtles and seals in New England is that one of the big global problems with turtles is that really interestingly, the gender of the turtle is determined by the temperature of the sand while it is gestating in the egg.
Wow. Wow, that's
And
fascinating.
yes, and in Florida, where a lot of sea turtles lay their eggs, because of global warming and the sand
Female.
unusually warm, there is a disproportionate number of female turtles.
Well, same with the water.
Yeah.
That's
And
so
they
much
take 20
estrogen. Yeah.
years to mature. And so in 20 years, there will not be enough male turtles per female turtles. And that's really when we'll see this crisis in the next decade or so.
Well, we'll see it this
Yeah.
because we've had this problem with fish for a couple of decades, and whilst Neptune's in Pisces, we are turning fish from male to female already, and have done for over 20 years. So we've got a sort of a Jurassic Park on our hands in terms of the ocean, but it's quite real. And because of the estrogen we put in to the
Yeah.
water and the sewage that gets fed into the ocean, that
Yeah.
is the effect we have on it. Yeah.
And so that I do think, Sue, that that's part of this. Part of this transformation is, and if you look back to the myths of Prometheus and his relationship with Aquarius, Epimetheus is part of that myth, right? His brother who made all the other creatures on the planet, right? So that is maybe part of that relationship with that cardinal, or with the fixed cross, right, of Epimetheus making all the other animals and Prometheus making humans, that interplay as well. And how do we all have to be able to live together, not just humans, but humans and wildlife. The bees need to be able to, if the bees are gone, if we damage all the plant life, then the bees die and there's no pollination. We have
I think we've got this down
very quickly.
I agree. And I'm interested. Thank you very much. Yes. And Wendy, you've been trying to say something too, or else we should go. We only have about 4 minutes left. So
well, I think there's so much I want to say, really. I mean, it's basically our world is going to change massively. Our bricks and mortar are not going to, our standard of living is not going to be based on those earth concepts. They're going to be based on air. They're going to be based on the network and relationships we have, our community, and we've already seen this. We see it with peer review. We see it with how many likes on Facebook and how many followers one has on Instagram. We're already there, and it's not really, this has been happening since Uranus, Neptune were in mutual, lots of things anyway. So yeah, we're going to our health, things like our central nervous systems, our brain. I mean, we're going to make so much more fascinating discoveries about our brain. We use 100% of our brain, but we only understand only 10% we understand of how we use it. Things like this. Anything cognitive, anything information, all of these things, we are going to be spearheading into unknown territory, which I say is exciting and also, scary as well. Food, going back to the Jetsons, but, food is an earth concept. We were grazers. And sugar, it's Taurus, it's Venus. That is not prominent anymore. Maybe while Uranus is in Taurus, but these are not things we're going to be preoccupied with. Our relationships already, we can see relationships are going to be primary in our lives, absolutely primary. Our networks in whatever way that is. And you can see already with social media, with younger generation, this is, or those very active, that relationships on social media are more important, are the most important thing. But the great thing is travel, aviation, it's going to be amazing. We talk about mythology, Skyfather. For me, Uranus is, Rangi, Rangi the Skyfather, as it is in Hawaii. Papatuanuku is the Taurian, is the Gaia, is Earth Mother. And so when you get these polarities of Arangatane and Papatuanuku, you get the sky and the earth coming together. But we all know, as in Greek or Polynesian or whatever, they were separated by Saturn, by their child. Same as Polynesian as it is in Greek, interestingly enough. So the children, again, I come back to Bonhoeffer's quote, the children, the polarity here is very important. Because less people, we're going to have more population problems, but not by birth by the absence of death. Sorry.
Wow. Laura, do you have a thought? 30 seconds.
Well, then, maybe part of this is then transforming our relationship with death.
Yay!
Right? That
Yes.
innovating death is not death as we think
Yes.
That's right. I like it. I like it.
Shouldn't be
That's
scared of
very
it.
good.
Shouldn't be scared of it. Yeah.
The transformation. It's like the leaves falling off the tree. They make it to earth. There's new seeds that grow. I mean, there is a point of using that mental objectivity to try to reconnect the emotionality. Always
Well,
that
and if
process.
it's not the physical, then we're more than this, right?
Yes.
That's what
Oh,
doesn't
good.
die.
Yes.
We're not this.
We're spirit. We are spirit. Oh boy, I just love this. Thank you both. Whoever to say first. Wendy Stacey, I'm so glad. Laura, Dr. Tad, and I are really happy. I know. So this is great. And thank you, our audience. We will be back. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests connect soul growth patterns with the energetic cycles of astrology. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.